Okay, this is the start of our Warhammer World Cup content. Once again, I announced this in a previous video, and hopefully I remember to put this video first as the start of the series for the Warhammer World Cup, Warhammer World Championship, whatever you want to call it. We have Berrserk versus Torasin. We will be... So a couple points of matter real quick before we get into the games. I intend to cast every series now that it's in the bracket stage. The first stage was like this elimination phase with a whole bunch of groups, and within your group you played a bunch of people in a Swiss format. There was 6 rounds, and it was like, it's not complicated to play. I'm not complaining about the format, but as a caster it was difficult to find series to give a shit about, because I'm like, all right, this is a matchup between Anticity and Sir Hopenflix, and it's round 2 of 6, and whoever wins here is in a slightly better position to advance from the group, but whoever loses here also has plenty of opportunities to make it out of the... It's kind of, I promise this match matters, but it doesn't matter immediately, and there were so many games and all that stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit this one out, wait through the group stage, and then get to the bracket. So, we're here, simplicity at its finest, Torasin versus Berrserk. Both these players advanced through their groups, which means they are both pretty good, so you know you're going to get high quality play on both sides, and also it's a simple narrative. Loser gets eliminated, winner continues on. It's a best of 5. There we go. So let's get started. As we get closer to the top and the bracket narrows down, I will occasionally bring up the bracket to talk about who is still in and whatnot, but at this point I think there's something like 30 something people still left, so we are just going to forego the bracket because the graphic is too big. For the first game, Berrserk went with High Elves, and he took Elithanar. A less surprising pick these days. Still surprising, but not completely troll. I think Berrserk was one of the first people to start bringing out Elithanar, but I have seen other people take him since. Nice Footlord, relatively tanky to melee and archer fire, and just decent 360 shooting as he runs around. We also have Caradrian on horseback with just his Captain the Phoenix Guard heal. No other abilities for him. Shadow Walkers, freshly nerfed from having every contact ability possible. Now they're just down to being normal Shadow Walkers. Then a Major Metal with Gehenna's Golden Hounds, Plague of Rust, and Searing Doom. Berserk's front line, we have Ship's Company, White Lions of Krace, and the Ship's Company, White Lion of Krace hybrid, the Company of Caladrian. A couple Silver Helms, some Illyrian Reavers, but no Dragon Princes since there is no healing for them here. As I said, for Torasin and Kislev, we have Winged Lancers and Kosovite Dervishes currently charging recklessly forward. I think they were trying to get some cav engagements, but they're going to want to pull back soon as Berrserk is starting to envelop them already. For us, the Kislevite army, we do have a Tempest Witch with Blizzard and a Leopard Summon, Akshin Ambushers with their net, Kossars and Armored Kossars, and then Kislevite Warriors. So it is a mass push from Kislev. Kosovite Dervishes did overextend, and they are now stuck fighting Illyrian Reavers, White Lions, and Silver Helms. That is going to be a dead Dervish. On the other side, Winged Lancers get hit with a Plague of Rust Overcast. I imagine the Shadow Walkers, yeah, the Shadow Walkers are just going to keep shooting them as they retreat. So their shields are no longer facing the correct direction because, of course, they're trying to escape, and their armor is reduced to 20, making them very easy prey for the deadly Shadow Walkers. And that early charge for Kislev has not gone well. Kislev does have more archers. Both sides have a good amount of melee infantry, so I don't really think there's a net advantage there, but Kislev's going to rely on their archers. The High Elves rely on cav superiority and then a hero core at this point. You know, Elithanar and Caradrian and a mage versus just a mage on the other side. So we'll see how Berrserk can utilize his single entities and his cav advantage. Maybe wouldn't have said he started the game with a cav advantage, but he definitely has one now, as 2 Kosovite Dervishes are toast, and both Winged Lancers have seen better days. One is trying to get a good charge onto these Silver Helms who are stuck in place fighting the Dervishes, but Caradrian's going to try and break up that charge, just make it a little more awkward for the Winged Lancers to get into that combat, and indeed, they do get just blocked up, and now the Shadow Walkers are probably going to pincushion them a bit. There's a Plague of Rust Overcast, there are the Red Arrows of Doom, and then the real Arrows of Doom follow suit, picking off the Winged Lancers, and their HP is just abysmal. They will get by our blood, so they'll stay in the fight for a little bit, but not going to last too much longer. High Elves take a very decisive lead on the balance of power only 3 minutes into this game. And the melee is still swirling. High Elves more than up to the task of dealing with Kislevites in melee, but a little outnumbered. There are more Kislevite Warriors and Armored Kossars and regular Kossars than there are White Lions. But yeah, Kislev's archers, if this game is going to turn around, are going to have to carry a lot of weight. Elithanar has to charge straight into the bowman. is down to about a little over half HP. But he's just disrupting Kossars, being a bit of a nuisance. And Caradrian is going to duel the Ice Witch. Does throw out her Snow Leopard summon. Time is running out for Kislev. They seem to feel it as they use their temporary Snow Leopard summon, try and get a little bit of damage on Caradrian. Pack trap from the Akshina ambushers as they're going to run away, netting him in place for the Leopard to get a couple free hits on him. But Caradrian has very high melee defense. He should be largely okay with this. Silverhelms are even going to try and help peel a little bit, but no, they're actually going to go shut down the archers and make sure they can't shoot Caradrian to death. I wonder where Caradrian has been throwing his heals. I haven't really noticed it, but there is also so many mid-tier infantry that I haven't had a specific one to kind of keep my eye on, like, oh, is he healing sword masters or something? But it's impossible to keep every white lion and stuff on my screen, but that is going to be a quick victory for Berserk to start off the series. 1-0. Caradrian, not much value. The mage either, damage value-wise, but her Plague of Rust were very nice. Shadowwalkers did fine. Silverhelms did fine. GG's for Torasin. Not a lot of value on his caster either. Kossars didn't get too much done. Gene Abershers did okay. Yeah, and Cavalry also struggled. It was a pretty tough one for Kislev there. Loading into game 2 between these two. Berserk winning on the High Elves, decides to try and keep the elf luck rolling as he pulls out Wood Elves, another very powerful faction in the meta right now. Torasin responds with his own elven units, Dark Elves. So you see all 3 elves in the first 2 games of this best of 5. Dark Elves, certainly very meta, though I do personally rate them a little lower than Wood Elves, but they're certainly quite strong, especially with the changes to Doombolt a while back, just making them a quite potent faction. But we don't actually get Doombolt here. We get Burning Head, another great spell. We have Knights, the Ebb and Claw, Slaanesha's Harvesters, Doomfire Warlocks, Regiment of Renown, paired with the Cold One Dread Knight, ROR. A couple Dark Riders, and then a mass infantry push. Dread Spears and Bleak Swords, keeping it simple, but then 5 Dark Shards, all with shields to try and withstand some Wood Elf counterfire. Inside of Berserk, we have Sisters of Twilight in the Sky with their essentially Arrow of Kurnos. I forget what it's actually called. I think it's Hawk's Quiver or something. Winder's Vantage, yeah. Oh, it's Eagle Quiver. That was close, but he tried to use it to side snipe some Dark Shards, got some decent damage down. In the forest, we have Wild Riders and Glade Riders. We have Zotes, some more Glade Riders, Hagbane Tips, Sisters of the Thorn, and a paltry infantry force of a single Eternal Guard and a single Dryad, the ROR Dryad. We do have a Spellsinger of Life with Earthblood and Awakening of the Wood. So mass mobility from the Wood Elves versus an infantry push of the Dark Elves. And unfortunately for the Dark Elves, they are just going to have to take the point and hope. That's kind of all they can do. They're outranged. Their Dark Shards just can't catch the cavalry and get decent shots on them, but I mean, it goes both ways. Berserk can't just walk his skirmish cavalry up to the Dark Shards and trade. They are shielded, and foot infantry archers tend to out-trade cavalry archers just due to model counts, and then obviously the cavalry have superior speed and combat stats, so it's not like either is an OP unit, but yeah, Berserk's gonna have a tough time breaking this box. I think he's gonna have to play very well. And the Dark Elves are going to have to be patient. It sucks, but they're just going to have to accept that they don't have agency here, and they're going to have to rely on the ticking timer to take Berserk out. Don't overextend anything. Don't get caught out. Counterfire when you can. Just buy time. That's all you're doing, is you're buying time, as the Wood Elves are going to skirmish with you for a bit. Dark Shards are taking a really long time to counterfire, and they need to hurry up with that, because their counterfire is their best defense. It's not that they're going to get a ton of damage. Berserk is too good of a player to just sit there and eat the volley, so he's going to dodge it. But again, you're just stalling. You want him to spend more time dodging than time shooting, and then eventually he has to come for the point, and you're hoping that he just gets stuck in a sloggy melee with your infantry while getting shot by Dark Shards, and his mobility means nothing. So I do want the Dark Shards to be responding a little quicker to when these cavalry come up, just like that. Very nice volley. It pokes him, and again, Berserk's going to dodge. He's not going to sit here and let the Dark Shards reload. He's not going to let the other Dark Shards get in range, so that's good play from both sides. But Torasin caught napping a little bit, Wraiths the Frozen Heart and Zotes sneak up through the forest and catch Slaanesha's Harvesters and the Dark Riders. They were seeking refuge in the trees to stay safe from the Sisters of Twilight, so they didn't just get poked for free, but there was a trap in those woods. They're now starting to retreat, but it is too late for them. Slaanesha's Harvesters get slowed down by an Awakening of the Wood. The ambush is very successful, and they've just taken so much damage. The Soul Stealer is healing them. It's not actually damaging them, but it's not enough to save them, so a very expensive Dark Elf Light Cavalry is taken out early into the game. The Zotes and the Wraiths were stalked on the advance, but still, you know, I gotta criticize where I see it, you know. They did obviously reveal themselves when they got close, and the Dark Elf reaction was a little bit too slow to that impending doom. So they've now retreated to the point. Balance power is in the Wood Elf's favor, which makes sense. I mean, the Dark Elf had just been sitting here eating damage, and they did just lose an over 1,000 gold cav piece. So the bounce power is going to be bad. Again, the win condition is still there for the Dark Elves. Just survive. Hold the line. As Berserk uses another Eagle's Quiver to take a quarter HP off of a Dark Shard. Awakening of the Wood pokes down other Dark Shards. But Berserk's actually made very little progress on breaking the Dark Elf lines. Half health off of a couple archers, 2/3 off of a different one. Cool. But you still have 10 infantry you're going to have to kill, and the timer for killing them is ticking down. And he really doesn't have a lot of staying power. That's the thing. These skirmish cav have decent melee stats versus like archers or dogs or something, but they won't do as well against full health infantry, which I think they see as a problem. Berserk is parking straight overhead on the Supreme Sorceress of Fire and switches to his single fire to just poke her out a little bit. He's baiting Torasin to do what Torasin was doing in the early game, where he kept turning his Dark Shards to try and punish the sisters, but it really isn't amounting to much, and whenever they do that, the skirmish cav move up. So Torasin's not taking the bait this time. I mean, he does turn one, but he keeps the others facing outwards, where they can punish any skirmishing going on. I do wonder about these guys being positioned off where there are no cavalry currently. I do wonder if they could turn inwards, but yeah. I mean, even the Dark Shards that are facing the sisters are just not getting very much damage out, which is why Berserk's feeling so brazen to put this Eagle Lord so close to the enemy formation. Eagles, since the dawn of time, have been crazy immune to range damage of lots of forms. Small hitbox, obviously. The sisters have some missile resist, 15%, but the main thing about the Eagles is even when you do hit them, they do this massive flapping animation that just makes them dodge most of the rest of the incoming volley. I'll see if I can catch it next time she gets shot at. But yeah, that's why Eagle mounts usually don't take very much range damage at all. Bounce power continues to get worse for the Dark Elves as the Wood Elves continue to just pick away at them. We are halfway through the ticking time bomb, however, so at some point the Wood Elves are going to have to start committing. Another side shot from Berserk, from the Sisters of Twilight down the side of the Dark Shards. The Dark Shards, in the meantime, just harrying the random skirmish cav as best they can. Race to the Frozen Heart now look like they're going to commit to melee. I mean, they have attack orders. It'd be weird for them to just pretend to charge and then pull back. They are going to start working on it. The Sisters of Twilight land in the middle. They want to cause a chain reaction. Routing a Dark Shard will cause the other Dark Shards to be like, nearby enemies are friends routing. So then they maybe route, but the Race to the Frozen Heart take a nasty volley of Dark Shard shots and a Burning Head that just wipe them out. That's one of the 2 infantry units for the Wood Elves that is taking a lot of damage. Wood Elf skirmish cav take a good amount of damage from the Knights of the Ebon Claw, but they did charge in to get the sisters back up into the air. The Knights of the Ebon Claw threatened to keep those sisters on the ground, which is not where they wanted to be at all, as another slow heal comes in from an Earthblood, trying to help the Wood Elves out a little bit. Berserk's moving in with his other infantry piece as well. Supreme Sorceress has to have saved up a lot of Winds of Magic for not casting a Burning Head yet this game until that Wraiths. So I think it is just on the natural cooldown of Burning Head, which Overcast cooldown's 37 seconds, so it should be up relatively soon. If she can get it on that Eternal Guard and just really whittle out the infantry forces that are good at capturing the point, this could be brutal. Because your infantry can out-capture cavalry for days. There's another heal comes down, Earthblood Overcast for the Race to the Frozen Heart. The Dark Elf army is starting to crumple in a few places, though. The leadership's not looking too good. They need Murderous Prowess to come up, which is difficult because you need more time spent in melee. Getting shot doesn't count towards it. There's the next Burning Head. It is going to go through the Race to the Frozen Heart again. It wants to hit both, and it gets a little poke on the Eternal Guard. Decent amount of damage overall. Pretty good cast by and by. Bounce power is looking real bad for the Dark Elves as they try and hold on, but their Murderous Prowess has procced right when they needed it. crucial leadership stats to keep these Dark Elves fighting and in it, which is right where they need to be. 200 seconds left on the clock. Can the Dark Elves survive for 3 more minutes, which honestly is not that much time? The Wood Elves, 2 infantry units, their heal caps have appeared, but they're still continuing to grind away along with Zotes. The cavalry are charging in wherever they can, getting in a fight with Coldwind Dread Knights. Coldwind Dread Knights getting a nice fight while getting Murderous Mastery, giving them a bunch of extra stats. And the Wood Elves are healing up, but it's taking them a long time to kill the Coldwind Dread Knights, and time is the only thing that matters to the Dark Elves at this point. Army lossing the Wood Elves and chasing all the units off the map is a foregone conclusion. That's not going to happen, so they just need to try and hold. 170 seconds left. Sisters of the Thorn routing off. Nice burning head through the Wild Riders. I think they're mostly just doing that for leadership debuffs. Yeah, getting a terror route out from the Knights of the Ebon Claw. The Knights of the Ebon Claw are only fighting 1 Wild Rider now, but not going to be too much damage from that burning head, just a leadership debuff. Balance Power is threatening to army loss the Dark Elves. They still have some infantry that can be recommitted to the fight. A couple Dark Shards here and there. Most of those are toast. The Knights of the Claw are really putting on a good showing for themselves. They've done a lot of damage to the Wood Elves. As we have Dark Shards rallying in the distance, they can turn and fire on the backs of the Wood Elf cavalry. Wood Elves are going for the capture point. I mean, probably the more effective way of winning this game at this point is for Berserk to tip things into army losses and just take the enemy army out without having to fight their way through it. But if he can take the point, he will. So he is trying to get units on there, but Torasin is well aware of it, puts his body on the point. Nice Awakening of the Woods spam. Slowly healing up the Wood Elf army and really hurting the Dread Spears, man. High Elves and Wood Elves have crazy high leadership, but Dark Elves struggle so bad after Murderous Prowess wears off. They constantly surprise me with how poor their leadership can end up being. Their Lord is about to die. Balance of Power is really counting them out. 100 seconds left on the clock. I don't know if they have another minute left in them, unfortunately, for the Dark Elves. It is getting close, however. The Wood Elves are starting to take the point. 90 seconds left on the clock. A minute and a half. Can the Dark Elves hold? My instincts are telling me no, especially if the sisters kill this Lord. The game is probably over, but Torasin is making him sweat for it. 80 seconds. Another Awakening of the Wood down on all these units, slowing them, damaging them, and that is going to be army losses. 70 seconds left on the clock. That catch on the Slaanesha's Harvesters ended up being pretty huge. Just a lot of Balance of Power when the Balance of Power is what the game came down to be about, so... yeah, it's weird to say that was a close game, but that actually did end up being a pretty close game. If the Balance of Power had been a little more friendly to the Dark Elves in the late game, it could have secured them the victory because the Wood Elves were just not capturing the point at all. Like, they were trying to, but they didn't have the capture weight, as we saw, and anybody that committed to the melee died pretty quickly. The Wild Riders and the Sisters of the Thorn had a terrible time once the melee started, so yeah, army losses was really the only angle for the Wood Elves there. Could have used a healthy Slaanesha's Harvester in that late game. And then obviously, like, for just the Balance of Power, that'd be nice, but that's also assuming they're AFK in a forest on the side, just being full health. Of course, them countercharging the Wood Elves would have been great, rather than getting sniped out, right? The Knights of the Ebon Claw got their chance to shine and did a lot of work, and Slaanesha's Harvesters could have done nicely too. So, yeah, those picks end up mattering later in the game. GG's, Berserk goes up 2-0. We'll move on to game 3. Could it possibly be more elves? Dear God, it's more elves. All right. High Elves are out of the series now as Berserk's on Empire versus Torasin's High Elves. High Elves are out of the series. Berserk could play Dark Elves. Torasin could play Wood Elves. And then we'd be out of Elves forever. But at least for game 4, if it exists, we know there's no High Elves. As we get a second Alethanar game in one series. Will he go undefeated, proving the haters wrong that he is the meta High Elf Lord? He's been proven to not be bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's great. We also have Horse Caradrian again, this time without the infantry heal, but still no abilities. So people really just liking taking just Horse Caradrian, apparently. Mage of Metal, Plague of Rust and Searing Doom, Flamespire Phoenix up in the sky, and then Alethanar on the ground with no abilities. So a naked Caradrian and a naked Alethanar. Interesting. Lothern Seaguard with shields behind that. Ship's Company in front. Lyrian Reavers, some Lyrian Reaver archers, and that is about it. So a very wide and cheap High Elf force, except for their hero core. The other side for the Empire, we have 2 Hawkland long rifles, a bunch of Free Company militia, We do have a Hellblaster volley gun, and then Empire Knights, Zintler's Reichsguard, and Balthazar Gelt on horseback, with Final Trans, Gehenna's Golden Hounds, Plague of Rust, Searing Doom, and his Staff of Olin. So 4 spells and a Hellblaster volley gun. Not what you expect to see in a high-stakes, big cash prize tournament, but Berserk's always taking weird shit, so I guess I should just start expecting the unexpected. Alright, Empire using their Hawk and Long Rifles to counterfire Alethanar. Again, he's low to the ground, which makes him relatively tanky, but sniper units like Giselles, Hawk Long Rifles, Crane Gunners are pretty good at hitting small infantry-sized characters, so Alethanar is going to have to be careful around them. The Empire is slowly moving up. They aren't moving up swiftly enough to take the point, however. They don't want to overextend into that territory, apparently, and their Hawk and Long Rifles are just going to fall back. So they're going to count on the High Elves taking the point and shooting the piss out of them. The Hellblaster volley gun did set its range precariously right on the point. So if any High Elves want to take it, they're going to get shot in the mouth with the volley gun. Adrian charges forward. Free Company Militia, probably going to tee off on him soon, but he does have significant armor and physical resistance. That small arms fire really doesn't matter to him at all. He could not give less of a shit. Zintler's Reichsguard falling back, trying to pull Illyrian Reavers out of position like he did game 1 against Kislev. So Berserk just trying to rely on his better micro, and Torasin really shouldn't take the bait. I mean, Illyrian Reavers are not going to do much versus Zintler's Reichsguard in the first place, but I suppose he can't just let Berserk cycle charge his ship's company for free, so that makes sense. Final Transmutation Overcast onto Caradrian. No healing was brought for him, and all of his armor and physical resistance does not matter against the Final Transmutation. Now, he does have 15% spell resistance, but still, he is an elven character who are not known for their high HP pools, and he's only on horseback, not on his Phoenix, so that Final Transmutation did take almost half of his HP, which is pretty brutal, and a great start for the Empire. Now, the Hellblaster volley gun is currently firing at something. It is lighting up Lothern Seaguard. Black powder blessed as the ship's company push through the Imperial front line, and I do imagine we'll see Zintler's Reichsguard swooping in here sometime soon to try and save the Hawk and Long Rifles. There they go, because the Hellblaster volley gun is also in a bit of trouble. And this is going much better than the Kislev game did for Torasin. He's already penetrated the enemy lines, and he's shutting down their range unit. Ship's company gets sideswiped by the Reichsguard and Empire Knights, but Flamespire Phoenix is much tankier than that, still going to make sure that the Hawk and Long Rifles don't have much to say about anything. Other Illyrian Reavers swoop past Berserk's front line, shutting down the second Hawk and Long Rifle, so pretty good wins in the early game here for the High Elves. Do have a Lothern Seaguard, do have a ship's company routing. That is something. And Illyrian Reavers get hit with a Plague of Rust Overcast, which was unnecessary. I think Berserk might have suspected those were Silver Helms. Otherwise, he would not have wasted the Winds of Magic on that just to help out as a Reichsguard. As both sides Plague of Rust overcast each other, definitely the High Elves getting the better of that, though. Reichsguard getting Plague of Rusted and shot by Lothern Seaguard is much better than Illyrian Reavers. Flamespire Phoenix gets back up into the sky. Very little damage ended up being done to the Hawk and Long Rifles, but this is more of just a disruption play on the back line as the Hellblaster volley gun continues to try and fire at the various archers. The archers, for their part, are cleaning out anybody in front of them, getting good damage on Hawk and Long Rifles, getting good damage on Spearmen and whatnot, and a Searing Doom from Torasin is going to hit Empire Knights and Swordsmen alike. The Hiles are fighting front to back, just trying to kill whatever is put in front of them. The Empire is doing much more focused sniping, focusing their Hawk and Long Rifles onto Alethanar or the archers, focusing their spells onto Caradrian. And the Hellblaster volley gun did take out a Lothern Seaguard and a half before the Flamespire Phoenix Terror Out forces it away. So it did okay. 100 kills against High Elves is nothing to scoff at. 700 value is decent this early in the game, and they could come back. But the ship's company are starting to slowly break through that Imperial front line, and now Reichsguard are going to have to be used to peel for the back line, which is a little more difficult for Berserk to keep up steady fire, especially with the Flamespire Phoenix just continuing to be a nuisance in the back line. Lothern Seaguard are ready to tee off on the Reichsguard whenever they run up. For now, just routing off the Hawk and Long Rifles. Lothern Seaguard do need new attack orders. Probably shoot the Reichsguard, maybe shoot Empire Knights or Swordsmen or something. I don't know about chasing the Lothern Seaguard, the Hawk Long Rifles into the desert. That doesn't seem like the best use of your time, as you're about to get side charged by Empire Knights, sir. Caught a little unawares there. Loud and Seaguard are hybrid spear infantry, but when they're not braced, they do take quite a bit of damage on that charge. Balance power is slightly Empire favored, but High Elves control the point, much like the Dark Elves in game 2. And a lot of balance of power is locked up in a couple easy to shut down things. The Hellblaster Volley Gun, when it's killed off, would take a lot of balance of power with it. Hawk and Long Rifles are still very squishy and easy to shut down if you get in on them. Balthazar Gelt is a piss poor melee combatant. So there are ways for the balance of power to swing a little bit wildly in this game. But something that swings wildly on the other side is if Gelt is in range to get a final transmutation on these 3 single entities right next to each other, that could be disastrous for the High Elves, and they do need to separate. And this game is not live, I swear, but he did run over here as soon as I said that, jowls a fluttering and salivating at the concept of a 3-man final transmutation. They're once again sort of clumping up. I do expect to see a circle appear on the Mage of Metal, the mage does use a High Elf Searing Doom to clear out the area around Caradrian. Very nice spell cast. But anyway, I expect to see a circle around her because the Flamespire Phoenix could heal. And then she was central, so it would hit more things before they dodge. And then even after they dodge, you can take out the enemy caster. So I expected that. But now that she's not central anymore, he might hit Caradrian again just to finish off that Captain of the Phoenix Guard. Lother and Seaguard are starting to attrition out. Just too much damage has come their way as the Hellblaster Volley Gun, after it got back online, got another 200 value, which is not nothing. The Reiksguard and the Empire Knights seem to have been sufficient to peel the backline when all they had was Illyrian Reavers against them. The cavalry advantage was in the Empire's favor, and it looks like they just swept up everybody. Also, I'm really not sold about the single entity Caradrian tech. I know Berserk brought it in game 1 and won, but Caradrian wasn't the reason he won game 1. And Caradrian just kind of has been bogged down this whole fight. Gelt is even going to charge in and 2v1 the Flamespire Phoenix and the Mage of Metal. He doesn't die for his efforts, but neither do they. He just gets a little bit of poke off. But where's his next final transmutation? I'm kind of surprised he's not had one in the bank. Must have used his Winds of Magic and other stuff, but I can't think it'd be more important. When the enemy has 4 single entities, final transmutation is probably the main spell you should be saving up for. Gelt is going to take out the Mage of Metal on his own. Balance of power is past the point of no return. If the High Elves could get a cheeky heal in the Flamespire Phoenix, that'd be nice, but it looks like it's just not going to be enough as there's too many white flags on the High Elf side. The Empire has very low health bars, but Zintler's Reiksguard, Gelt being healthy, and then the Hawk and Long Rifles just being able to fire now that they're back in the game. I mean, that's just too much for the High Elves to overcome. Army losses takes them out. That's going to be a 3-0 sweep for Berserk. Reiksguard did pretty well. Hellblaster Volley Gun also did nicely. Hawk and Long Rifles did all right. Free Company Militia, pretty good. And then Imperial State Troops did fine. Gelt got amazing value. For Torasin, there's just a lot of stuff that really didn't work out. Caradrian and Alethanar did not end up mattering too much. I think Alethanar was sniping out Hellblaster Volley Gun models, which is how they got to 2 out of 4 at one point. But Lother and Seaguard had a tough time. They started good, and then they kind of petered out in the late game. Illyrian Reavers didn't have much they could accomplish, and the Flamespire Phoenix was doing a lot of disruption, but yeah. GG's, and Berserk will advance on to the next round. Take care.
Subscribe, yes.